watching live from Abuja studio, the Market Report. I'm Adefola Olamide, and sitting here with me right now is my guest for today, Mr. Tajudeen Sulaiman, who happens to be the managing editor of the Whistler newspaper. Sir, you're highly welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, viewers.
Exactly. So, I'm taking you on the path of your route, your route of economic reporting, economic reportage, and the rest of it. So, today, it's about Nigerian economy Midyear report. And but before we go into that deeply, what has been your assessment of global economy? Because we cannot talk about Nigerian economy without taking a cue of what has been happening globally.
Yeah, I report the economy. I've been reporting the economy for years. I'm not an expert. I'm not an economic expert. But looking at the global economy, I mean, the World Bank has predicted that the global economy is going to slow in 2025 and perhaps going forward. And this is due to trade tensions within countries, generated by the sweeping reform and the sweeping tariffs, which the new president of America started recently. So that has caused a lot of policy instability across the globe. And analysts have also did the forecast that this is going to affect foreign direct investment into countries, especially emerging economies and developing countries like Nigeria. Okay, so the World Bank has also predicted that some economies may even go into recession. Currently, as it is now, Europe, the whole of Europe, is growing. The economy is expanding at the rate of 1 point. Even America is at the rate of 1 point, and inflation is growing. So the situation is very dire for globally. That is what I would say for now.
All right, very interesting. But before we take it back home, it's good we also tailor it in relation to what is happening to Nigeria.
Yeah.
In the first 6 months of the year 2025, we have seen an economy that grew by 3.13%. And many analysts have said that we have seen achievements, we have seen the gains, but we have to be very careful because of the volatile nature of global economy. But from your own understanding of what the federal government have been doing, the state government have been doing, are they creating opportunity for buffer against this global tension not affecting Nigeria in a way that most of us have to begin to call them to order? But in your own understanding, are they creating that buffer? Are they creating that opportunity to solutions against those challenges that is coming externally?
Yeah, frankly speaking, I would say yes to some extent. Yes to some extent, in the sense that if you situate the Nigerian economy against what is happening globally, you see that Nigeria is not doing badly. We're not doing badly at all, okay, compared to what is happening globally. And one of the things, even IMF, the World Bank, they have also said the same thing, that the reforms of this government has started to yield fruits, and our economy is already showing signs of recovery. Okay, it has been growing consistently now. Okay, so, and if you look at the response of the CBN, for instance.
I'm even coming to that, but you land in your thoughts.
Okay, well, the fiscal policies of the government is also to support this, to make sure that these gains are sustainable. You get it? That's why I strongly am very, very optimistic about this administration is the long-term focus of the administration, of the reforms that this government has embarked upon. They are not looking for quick fixes. They are looking in the long-term growth. Okay? And this is the trajectory that I see going forward. So the government is increasing investment in infrastructure. Federal government is increasing investment in infrastructure. States are also doing the same thing. Almost every state in the country now are embarking on one project or the other. These have the multiplier effect of creating jobs and reducing poverty to some extent.
Exactly, very interesting. But on the other hand, when you talk about the economy is recording some growth, a lot of people argue that these are jobless growth. These are not food security growth per se. But what's your perception on that?
No, they are right. They are right, because the macroeconomies is improving. It's improving. But there are areas where we still have challenges. And this is in the area of unemployment, poverty alleviation. We need to create jobs. Okay? And this is I think why the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria it has advised the federal government to invest more, to support more the productive base of the economy. That is the manufacturing sector. You get it? Because if you look at the last rebased figure, manufacturing is still very low.
Exactly. Now let's take a look at inflation.
Yeah.
22.22%, which many Nigerians are still saying this is too high for the current economy.
Yes, it is too high. I think the federal government has targeted perhaps 15% this year. But I'm not sure if we are going to get there. If we are going to get to 15. But the good news is that it is going down. It is going down from the peak
that we
last year.
Exactly, 34, 35, and
now we are 22. So the thing is that it will keep going down if we sustain, if the government and the CBN sustain the current reformist posture.
Talking about reform, the rebasing has come.
Yes.
But a lot of Nigerians are still asking, even with the rebasing, the reality has not been connected. But what's your own perception of the rebasing of the economy?
Yeah, I mean, the rebasing is basic. The rebasing of the economy is basic. If you don't have the right data, you cannot plan.
It's true.
You know? And we have not been rebasing as regularly as we are supposed to be doing. We are using old figures. Now, even this rebasing is 2019 figures.
It's true.
So perhaps, if they do it this year now, the figures will be different.
Exactly.
So the government also need data to be able to plan. Okay? So for me, the rebasing may not necessarily translate to good life for Nigerians. I mean, that's not the purpose of it. It's just to provide statistics for investors, for the government to understand. Exactly.
Well, going forward into the discussion, one of the key things we want to do is charting a sustainable path for the Nigerian economy, because we have spent the first 6 months. We're now experiencing the second 6 months. We are now in August. After July have gone, we are now in August. But a lot of Nigerian economists, experts, even a reporter like you will say, there is room for improvement. There is room for this to be done by the government, by the private sector, and the rest of them. But first and foremost, on your own part, what do you think has been a major challenge of the Nigerian economy in the first 6 months of 2025? Remember, the 2025 budget is not in operation right now. We are still operating in 2024. Even some part of the 2023 is still there. But from your own understanding of what has been done so far, what is the basic challenge of the 2025 economy in Nigeria?
Well, I think our major challenge will be revenue generation.
I think you definitely talked about that, because the oil challenge, receipt from the oil is creating a lot of issue. But let's take that from you. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's revenue generation and perhaps insecurity. Insecurity is the bane of this economy right now. No matter what the government does, no matter your macro and micro policies, without security, in a vast swath of the country, when there is insecurity, in almost all parts of the country, they are not likely to grow to what is being projected. This is a problem, because Nigeria largely depends, apart from oil, the greatest employer, the biggest employer of labor is agriculture. But when we have a situation that farming becomes too risky for people who are interested, it's not a good thing, and it's not the fault of this administration. I'm not blaming this government. In fact, the government is doing a lot to address this situation. It is a situation that it inherited. And insecurity is not something. It's not something that you can just end in a few months. It will take a lot of measures, both short-term and long-term measures. And one of the long-term measures, which we have discussed on this program, is the state police. If we don't have the state police, forget about it.
But on the issue of state police, before we get to that, because I know you have mentioned insecurity as one of the major problems. Before we begin to discuss state police, which is one of the solutions that have been driven or been popularized by many political actors as well as economic actors.
Yeah.
But on the basis of revenue that you're talking about in the oil sector, we have seen the volatility in the global oil price. And we've also seen how the federal government is also saying that, okay, they have some buffer, particularly in non-oil sector. But do you see them doing enough in the area of generating revenue from the non-oil sector?
Yeah, if there's any government that can do that, it's certainly this government. For the first time, we are seeing a government that is focusing solely or largely on non-oil sector. That's why you see, look at the mineral sector. You understand? A lot is happening there, even though we still have the issue of corruption and things like that. But a lot is happening. There's a lot of investment going into that sector. You understand? And look at the FIRS. Tax revenues have also been growing. You know, there are some economies that depend only on tax. So
very interesting.
Yes.
On the other part, there's also the argument around government raising revenue from non-oil sector, which you have mentioned, mineral resources, mining and the rest of it.
Yes.
But a lot of people also argue that government is not paying attention in the aspect of ensuring that accountability and transparency takes place. Although many will also argue and put forward that that's why we have the new tax law. But from your own understanding, will this tax law help us to galvanize enough revenue from the non-oil sector?
Yes, I think so. That's my opinion. Unfortunately, I heard the chairman of the committee on this tax reform saying that it will not take off until early next year.
Exactly. I think that's the peak time that the federal government also put.
As I said, and it's my opinion that we are going to see a lot of growth in state revenue. By the time the tax law takes effect, there will be more competition, you know. And this will also create jobs. You know, I see a lot of good things happening next year.
At least from this second quarter
from this second quarter to next year.
I think that's okay.
We just have to be positive.
But you definitely have to be positive about our country. But the challenges that have been enumerated, like you pointed out, insecurity. But there's one that business circles, business community have always highlighted. Even the manufacturing sector that you mentioned has always highlighted. Deficit infrastructure, power, good road, you know, educational centers, you know, logistic infrastructure particularly.
No, I agree with you. That's quite valid. South Africa is ahead of Nigeria in terms of the economy, largely because they have better infrastructure than us. The same with Algeria, you know, the same with Egypt. So we need a lot of investment in infrastructure. But this government is doing it. That is the point that I want to raise. You know, before this government came in, nothing was going into capital projects. Nothing. Nobody was doing anything. You understand? Before this government came, because there was no money, there was no fund to do anything. We were borrowing money to even subsidize fuel for Nigerians. They were borrowing money to pay salaries. But now at least that is over. That era is over now. States are no longer borrowing to pay salaries. States are now doing projects with allocation, fact allocation that they get. A lot of them, if you just Google it, you see what the governors are saying about this, about the current situation. So I believe that, you know, it's a long-term thing. Look at the infrastructure map that this administration has designed. By the time they are completed, you understand what I'm saying? I'm sure a lot of the issues that MAN and other private sector operatives are making now will be addressed.
And talking about addressing some of those issues, which is quite very interesting, is the aspect of infrastructure, power generation. We have seen the President Tinubu signing the Electricity Act, decentralized electricity coming to place. But we're also not seeing much activity coming from the state government in that regard. But I will not want you to answer that question. But the one I'm going for is the one we discussed earlier, the CBN policy, monetary policy in the economy, 27.50 retainship of the NPR. Many have argued that in this second half of the year, many businesses may not still have access to funding. But CBN on their part said, no, we still have to retain this particular interest rate. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think I support the CBN and all.
Mr. Sulaiman, why is it that most economists at this point in time, they will say they are supporting CBN, but the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria will say no, CBN should come down. There was a discussion between bank owners, MD of banks, and their research agencies across the country, who said that CBN need to reduce this MPR rate. But for you now, you are saying...
No, you see, it is the job of the federal government to see the larger picture. There are different interests. Man is an interest.
Exactly.
It has its membership. They are profit-driven. So they are going to demand what is in the interest of their members. And that is quite legitimate. I support that completely. Maybe what we should urge the CBN to do is to look for a middle ground. Okay? But all economic indicators and analyst groups, you understand, including IMF, including World Bank, they have all said the gains should be sustained and the interest rates should be tightened more.
I'm talking about the interest rate. CBN MPC meeting in September 19 and 21st of September this year. But many have also been suggesting that in case it doesn't work the way CBN is thinking, in case it doesn't work the way IMF and World Bank are also projecting, is it time for them to really walk the talk and listen to some of these business owners to reduce the... But on the other hand, we are looking at the point whereby the Manufacturing Association are also complaining about the cost of their production. Apart from the access to finance, cost of production is also a very key issue. And they made mention of the issue of raw materials that they are importing.
That is true. The cost of production, the ease of doing business, all this impact on the members of MAN and even other private sectors. If government has to find a way to bring down the cost. Even multilateral agencies have advised the federal government, you have to improve your ease of doing business because all these come under ease of doing business. You have to, the government must find a way to improve it. And I think one of the ways is to improve the power infrastructure. Make power available and reliable. If they can do that, and I think the government is already doing that. They are doing a lot in the area. I understand that about $700 million have been invested through some foreign partners, Chinese foreign partners, have been invested in power transmission, which is why we have the greatest problem now. Because we have the capacity to generate power, but transmitting that power to the substations is the biggest issue that we have. That's why we always have grid collapse. But in the last few months, have you heard of the grid collapsing?
Maybe the investment is paving up, but let's also take a look at some other issues in the first quarter of the economy.
Yes.
You had mentioned that security is a challenge. We have talked about the inflation. But one aspect that we also need to pay concentration on is the aspect of our loans. We have seen our federal government have gone after loan. And analysts are saying in the second quarter of the year, which is half of the remaining year, that they are not expecting the federal government to borrow more money. Because as I speak right now, the total Nigerian debt is about 149 trillion naira. But do you think the federal government will still go for more loan in the second half of the year?
Well, from the look of things, because if we have shortfall in our budget revenue projection,
exactly,
the only way to cover that is to borrow money.
You see,
but you see why what I tell people about when you say borrow, what are they borrowing the money to do? That is the issue that we should be talking about. This government, go and calculate the capital project that this government is executing across the country. You know, recently when a politician from the north said that the government is not doing, is shortchanging the north,
something like that.
and then the presidency responded, and I saw the list of projects that are ongoing in northern Nigeria, which many northerners are not even aware of. Road projects across the everywhere. So for me, if you are borrowing for infrastructure, that is okay. It's just like this this Calabar highway that
Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway.
You know, it's also a partnership. And by the time that road we generate its own money by the time they finish. So if that is the idea behind it, because I know the government cannot just be borrowing, you understand? If they don't know how to refund it, and you know the president is someone that has financial knowledge, so he is also aware of some of these things. So borrowing, they continue to borrow.
As we begin to round up, because time is not our friend.
Time is not our friend, yes.
Because you look at it, we are almost getting to the close of the show. But we need to also project for the economy, because it is important we identify all the challenges we have enumerated: insecurity, infrastructural deficit, weak currency. Naira is also very weak, even though with technical devaluation they have been carried out. But we're also seeing some development. The economy has grown by 3.13%. But many have asked the question, this growth doesn't really relate to ordinary Nigerians. But as we project into 2025, half of the year, first and foremost, I'll ask you, what's your projection? Do you see us surpassing? Because the federal government projection for the year in terms of growth is 3.9% ending the year. Do you see them getting to that level?
If we continue on this trajectory, for instance, if our oil production continues this way, the way it is growing, if it continues to grow like that, already the group's the CEO of NNPC, they are already targeting 2.09 by million barrels.
Exactly.
By 2030. No, it's not even 30 that he said.
I think that's part of the budget 2030.
Exactly. So if it continues like that, and we are able to solve our security challenges, you understand? We are able to reduce oil theft. And the military is doing a lot. The military and NNPC, they are doing a lot in this regard. Almost every day. In fact, we stop using their press statement, because almost every day they are arresting oil things and all that. So the thing has become routine now. So if they can sustain that, if it is not just show, if it is real and they can sustain it, I think they should be able to meet that projection. And if they don't meet it, maybe we should be close to it.
But talking about meeting the projection, there is no fear about meeting the projection. The bigger fear is the global oil price. As I was analyzing oil price today on my show, we discovered that OPEC, that was $75 4 days ago, dropped to $72 2 days back, dropped to $71 yesterday, and is now $70 today. And you understand how that will play on Nigeria.
That is a bigger
$75 budget mark. So even though we are making 2 million, 3 million barrels, and the price we are budgeting, we can't meet up.
That is why I support what the CBN is doing, still tightening the monetary policies, because you don't have control. That's what you have control on. You don't have control on the price of oil. You can't control that. It's determined by other factors outside your control. So the sector is already deregulated.
Exactly.
So if the price of oil goes up and comes down, it will reflect. So in order to minimize the impact of that, that's the explanation that the CBN has given. Why it is doing some of this tightening, why the interest rate has not come down yet. And things like that. The federal government is also pushing some other reforms.
Exactly. Now, talking about reforms of the federal government of Nigeria, we have talked about the tax reform. Just 2 days back, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu signed into law the Nigerian Insurance Industrial Act. I know you are aware of it. A lot of people are waiting for it. One of our colleagues that featured on my show yesterday was reminding me that, do I remember that it was in 2003, 2007, this law was expected to be signed, but nobody talked about it, but it has been signed. But what's your take on the law?
I've not actually read the details of the law. I've not actually, but I think the insurance industry is one that needs more regulation. Because what we have seen over the years, I have investigated reports about insurance by MDAs. What we have seen in previous years is just a situation where they don't take any insurance. At the end of the year, they just retire the money to themselves. That's what they do. That's what these MDAs do. They just sit down with insurance brokers and share the money. So and that will also affect the insurance industry. So I think what the government is trying to do is to ensure proper regulation for that sector. Like I said, I've not read the details, so I'm not going to be able to say whether it captures everything or not.
Definitely, the law, as I was able to review it on my own before,
Yes.
I brought it as a discussion yesterday on the show, to capture vital segment of the insurance industry in Nigeria, particularly mandatory contribution, as well as penetration of insurance in Nigeria. It will be well known to most of our viewers that we don't have much of insurance company in the northern part of the country.
Yeah.
But with this new law, is to ensure that they penetrate all parts of Nigeria.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether you also have any say on that, because penetration of
Yes,
insurance is very key.
I hope it can generate that, because I remember when I was in Kano and I had a friend who is an insurance manager. So he came to me to introduce him to some of the power brokers. And I took him around, and all of them were saying that, no, we don't believe in insurance. I'm telling you, the guy was frustrated. He had to leave Kano and come to Abuja. He's in Abuja here now. So I think, but the government has to do more than just sign the law. It's a whole reorientation that needs to be done.
Although I also agree with on the part of the government, because the new man on the chairman of the DG of Nigerian Insurance Commission was one time the chairman of Association of Insurance Brokers of Nigeria. So what the government did was to bring someone who is a player, who understands the game, as the DG of.
That is smart.
So we expected something very dramatic, very interesting to come out of it. But before we go right now on the show, what's your projection for the economy in the next 6 months? Talking about by December. 3.9 is the target of the federal government of Nigeria. IMF, World Bank are looking at 2.7, 2.9. But for you, what is your projection?
I stay with the federal government.
That's a very on the safer side. That's a safer side.
Because they know what they are doing.
Exactly.
They know what they are doing, and they know. You know, I always tell people. You know, during the campaign, I followed what all the presidential candidates were saying, and the one that really caught my attention was what this current president said in Kaduna when he appeared in Kaduna, and he said that, look, this country, he said, in this country, he said we can squeeze water out of stone.
I'll leave it like that. Just leave it like that. We can squeeze water out. Maybe that's why the government is so focused on mining sector.
Yeah.
Just recently, an initiation between the Central Bank of Nigeria and Nigerian Mining Ministry came with Nigerian CBN buying up all the gold that have been discovered in Zamfara or any other part of Nigeria by the mining ministry. And for the CBN, that is the bullion van they have been waiting for many, many years. Mr. Tajudeen Sulaiman, I have to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. And it's quite interesting that you made, one of the some laudable projection in regards. But for him, he's still the federal government on that 3.9% economic growth they are targeting.